everyone, and welcome to episode 30. It's episode 30, y'all. Yay! Of the Dear Herbalist Podcast titled Hot Topics Every Herbalist Must Study. So, if you are interested in the often hidden topics, even though they're widely known out here in these streets, that herbalists should be studying, then please tune in with me right now. In this podcast, I'm going to be talking with you about 5 hot topics every herbalist must study. Now, why am I calling these hot topics? I am calling these hot topics because some may say that these topics are controversial and taboo to discuss. But these topics, however, greatly impact your effectiveness as an herbalist as well as the lives of the people around you. So, my aim today, or really tonight, I should say, is to make you aware of them so that you can not only study them to understand them, but also study the solutions to address these specific topics. Now, I know in today's society we want to focus on whether or not we actually believe certain things, or is it true? Fact check this, fact check that. But the reality of it is that we have to understand the root cause of an issue. And in order to understand the root cause of the issue, we have to understand these topics. So these topics today, I want you to know them well and study them well. They are the root cause of most illnesses that we find today. Okay. Now you have to understand what I'm getting ready to tell you is not new. All of these topics have been heavily researched globally, studied, and their findings on the impacts of our health has been the cause of many debates worldwide. Okay. Now there's been tons of scientists out here who have been silenced, discredited, and some have even paid the ultimate price for exposing some of the things I'm getting ready to share with you today. Now, me, do I have fear? Absolutely not, because I have a mandate from the Most High to share with you all that I'm going to share with you today. And trust me, this podcast is not going to be like other herbalist podcasts you heard. We're not going to stay on the surface here. So, getting to the root of the issue is important so we can help our clients. And it requires us to be able to have a well-rounded education in all topics that impact their health if we want to be effective. Okay. There are no taboo subjects. Zero. If it impacts their health, they need to know about it and we need to let them know about it. Okay. So I've done several of the surface herbalist topic type podcasts. I've given you the Getting to Know Me podcast episodes, YouTube videos, and all of that. Now I'm asking you to dive deep with me. Today I'm challenging you to look at dis-ease, right, which is a lack of ease, and disorder, which is a lack of order in the body, as an internal issue that is caused by us. There is no external happenstance that actually happens. Disease and disorder in the body just does not come out of nowhere. All right. We have to understand that it is not what's happening to us. It is manifested as a result of what we have done to the body over time. So we are as much a part of the disease process as disease is. So by acting like disease is something that is, attacked us out of nowhere, really absolves us from taking responsibility of what has occurred to us. So put on your thinking cap, grab you some herbal tea, a pen, notepad, some books, whatever you want to grab, okay? And let's dive into these topics today. Number 1, the food industry. Now, there are countless of food companies worldwide, ranging from small local producers to multinational corporations. Within this industry, the food that we put in our mouth is covered with preservatives, artificial flavorings, dyes, additives. It's wrapped and stored in plastic, styrofoam, and all kind of cardboard coatings and all that stuff, right? Now, why is this important for herbalists to study? The reality of it is that everyone knows that there's something wrong with the food. You talk to people, there's not one person you can't talk to, like, I know. It's something in the food. I get it. It's going to kill us. You're going to die, something, right? That's kind of the mentality. So they're like, so what's the big deal? Now, from an herbalist perspective, the big deal is this. This is what we do know as herbalists that have studied or that should study the food industry. Okay, all aspects of the food industry. One, did you know that endocrine disrupting chemicals can be found in many foods that we eat, including meat, dairy, fish, and even in our plastic wraps? According to the Centers for Disease Control, CDC, okay, 1 in 6 Americans get sick, 128,000 are hospitalized, and 3,000 die of foodborne illnesses. Now, the CDC, you can go on their website. This information is in your face. It's not hidden nowhere. You just have to know where to look for it. The CDC has provided estimates, okay, for two major food groups of foodborne illnesses. One is known foodborne pathogens, and when you hear the word pathogen, that means disease-causing organism. And so the CDC has identified 31 of these disease-causing uh, microorganisms, all right, which could be, bacteria, fungi, that type of stuff, microbes. And the other category is unspecified agents. Now they're saying it's about 20%, all right, of the known foodborne illnesses, and 80% of those that have gotten sick, the category is considered unspecified agent. So this could be the chemicals, microbes, or any other substances that you find in your food. So why is this important to know? It's important to know and understand because what you put in your mouth is changing your body. It's causing chemical reactions in your body. Now, these chemical reactions can be positive if the food is clean and it's good and it has all its nutrients, or it can have a negative effect if the food has some kind of spoilage or it's a chemical in there, an additive, artificial dye that disrupts the way your hormones work. Okay, and when I said endocrine disrupting chemicals, your endocrine system is the source of your hormones. All right, and your hormones are chemical messengers in the body that tell the body specific parts what to do. It helps them function. So if your messengers can't get to certain parts of the body, or it's the signals are getting, wires getting crossed and they can't understand what's going on, your body is going haywire at this point. So this is the reason why it's important, because you may have clients that'll come to you with endocrine disorders. And they may say, the doctor can't seem to figure out what's going on. They don't know. They done did every test. They done tried. Well, most of the time, they're not going to be looking for, the endocrine disrupting chemicals in what you are eating. Why? Because they don't have tests for that. This is the reason why, as herbalists, we need to know these things. We have to know, okay, what are you eating? Let's do a food log. What's the company you're getting it from? All of this stuff. So that way, as we're looking at what you're eating, we're able to determine, well, did you know that this food here and that food there has been scientifically studied, and it's been determined that it causes this, that, and the third. Now, when I told you before that there are scientists out there that have been discredited, it's because of the fact that, my grandpa always says, follow the money, right? Always follow the money. Whether you believe that or not, follow the money. Somebody is getting paid. So if somebody is getting paid off of this, right, then of course they're going to have their own scientists to say, oh, there's nothing wrong, there's no problem. But if you have an independent scientist that says, let me just look at it from my perspective, let me look at, the details, let me do my own research, and they determine that it's something opposite of what the other paid scientists, bought and paid for scientist has come up with, trust and believe they will become a target. Okay, because it's about money. It is not about your health. And I've talked to hundreds of people, and people know this. Whether they believe it or not is one thing, but they know it. So that you need to study the food industry, every aspect of the food industry. Know what these artificial flavorings are, know what the dyes are, the additives, how they interact with the body's chemistry, how does the plastics. Make sure you do write-ups, make sure you provide handouts to your clients so that they can see and know. It's not to scare people. If people get afraid from certain information, they're just going to be scared anyway. But at the end of the day, you can't say no one ever told you, right? All right. So the food industry, that is a topic you must study. And let me say this real quick too. What also is not on this list is the standard stuff that you should be studying. Okay, the human body, the plant body, those things are just givens. These topics that I'm talking about today are the ones that you are not seeing courses for in a lot of your, first of all, colleges. Okay. You will see pathology and stuff like that in the medical schools, but in your naturopathic schools, or let's say some of your smaller herbalist schools, you might not see these subjects being taught. All right. So it's important for you to have an understanding of these subjects and research these subjects so that you know what your clients might be dealing with. This, again, all of these are designed to help you get to the root of the issue. And I will always ask you, do you want to be just another herbalist or do you want to be an effective herbalist? So ask yourself that. An effective herbalist requires that you know what the root of these issues are. Target your strategy to address the root cause, right? And then move forward. So let's move on to the topic number 2, parasites. Okay, now you hear parasites being talked about everywhere. Parasite cleanse, parasites can do this, parasites can do that. And I think people get inundated with so much information, even herbalists, to where they're just kind of like, all right, fine. Parasites, we need to clean them out, buy this drink, you should be fine, yada, yada, yada. But as herbalists, we have to go deeper than that. Now, let's back up. What are parasites? Parasites are organisms that live on or inside an organism, which they call a host, which is us, right? And they rely on us for their survival. So they're not going to do anything necessarily to quote unquote kill us, right? Because then they would then kill themselves, but they're slowly going to waste us away. And that's how I look at it because of what they do. They rely on our nutrients and everything that we have in our bodies so that they can survive. But they'll get us to a certain point. They won't really kill us off, right? Unless there's a severe infection. Okay? Now, they can enter the human body through contaminated food, water, insect bites, or even contact with infected animals or soil. So, all of you out there, I have to say this, that let your dog lick you in the mouth, y'all need to stop that. Especially if you don't know, you know where dogs lick. Okay, especially if they got an itchy booty, they may have parasites, and while they over there licking the crack of their behind, and then they turn around, run to you, and then Ruffy's licking you all in the mouth. I need y'all to stop that. I can't. I don't even know any other way to say it. I don't care what your feelings and your thoughts and your opinions are. Uh, I need you to stop that. Parasites may reside in the intestines, but many species migrate during certain life stages to your blood, your lymph fluid, your heart, your liver, your gallbladder, your pancreas, your spleen, your eyes, your brain, as well as inside the lining of your joints. All right. Now, more than 300 kinds of parasites can live in the human body, and they generate a ton of symptoms such as headaches and back pain, energy loss, spaciness, vomiting, weight loss, colitis, gas, acne, uncontrolled appetite, any type of joint or muscle pain. These are some symptoms of people that tend to carry parasites in the body. Now, conventional medicine rarely tests for parasites as a possible cause for these symptoms. They'll most oftentimes than not attribute it to something else. This is the reason why you need to know in depth about these parasites, okay? It shouldn't just be left to the microbiologist to say, okay, this is all the ins and outs. Now, we appreciate the work that they do and the research and the studies that they've done to help us better understand what the parasites are and what they can do and how they operate. But we need to study too. Okay, we need to study as well. Now, parasites can often be a major factor for underlying unexplained health problems. So, this can include allergies, fatigue, chronic intestinal dyssymbiosis, joint pain, uh, malaria, Hashimoto's, Graves' disease, thyroid dysfunction, autoimmune disorders, toxoplasmosis, intestinal worms. So, I mean, and this is a short list, okay, is you know, where parasites are kind of at the root cause of a lot of these issues. So parasites can be single-celled organisms, for example, like protozoa, or they can be multicellular organisms like worms. But they typically have adaptations such as hooks, suckers, or adhesive structures so that they can attach themselves to your tissues. Parasites also cause mineral deficiencies because they strip the body of its much needed minerals. So just knowing that parasites exist for herbalists is not enough. They are at the root cause of many diseases in the body, and their waste that they excrete as well damages tissues. So, as an herbalist, once we have identified that the client may have some sort of a parasitic infection, our strategy must include using herbs to rid them of the parasites. So, you want to look at anti parasitic herbs because they contain bioactive compounds that target parasites in different ways. So, let's look at some of these ways that the anti parasitic herbs can disrupt the lives of these parasites. One of the ways they can disrupt the lives is disruption of metabolism, so how they break down what they're taking in. So some anti-parasitic herbs contain compounds that interfere with the metabolic processes of parasites. So you look at herbs like wormwood or black walnut. They contain substances which can disrupt the energy production pathways of parasites, which will eventually lead to their demise. Okay. Another thing that the herbs can do is damage the cell membrane. So, certain herbs have properties that can disrupt the integrity of the parasite cell membranes. Compounds like berberine, and these are found in herbs like golden seal, Oregon grape, they can penetrate the cell walls of the parasites, causing leakage of essential cellular components and ultimately leading to the destruction of the parasites. Another action that herbs can have is basically inhibiting the enzyme activity. So, antiparasitic herbs contain compounds that can inhibit specific enzymes necessary for the survival of parasites. So, you want to look at herbs like cloves or garlic because they contain allicin, which is a compound that can inhibit the activity of enzymes, which are very important for parasites' metabolism. Thereby, of course, this will disrupt their life cycle and cause their elimination. So there's no reason the parasites should just be lingering around in your client's body when you know that there are herbs out there that can disrupt their system because they're living organisms as well. And so they have mechanisms inside their body that cause them to, they have needs so that they can survive. So if you can disrupt those those things, those mechanisms, of course they won't survive. And that's how you can have a more targeted approach. Once you identify the type of parasite it is, know all the ins and outs of that particular parasite, what does it need to survive in your body? How can you deprive it of that? How can you break down its system so that it doesn't come back? And not only that, how can you also disrupt its life cycle so that it doesn't, on its way out of here, drop larvae off in the next site of the tissue. Another effect or impact that herbs have is that these herbs can immunomodulatory effects. So basically what this means is that some herbs can exert their anti-parasitic effects by modulating the immune response of the host organism, basically by enhancing your immune system so that you can recognize and eliminate the parasite. Okay, because the immune system is very strong. It's almost like running around with a computer in the body, recognizing, those disease causing individuals, writing a script on them, studying them, what they are, their mechanism. So your body's doing it too, right? Your immune system is doing it too. Who is this? Why they're here? What do they component? What do they consist of? How are they made? And how can I destroy them? Boom! I successfully destroyed them. Great. Now I know the next time if I see that same parasite, right? This is what it's going to take for me to be able to get rid of it. I mean, the body is a genius. When I tell you it's a genius design, a genius design. One of the most important things that herbalists need to know, especially in studying parasites, is that they can be difficult to get rid of. So this is why you have to know them by name, know how they're made up, know what breaks them down, and understand all of their life cycles. Because, like I said, as their different life cycles happen, they migrate to different organs of the body. Okay, and sometimes they encapsulate themselves in cysts, right? So you want to look at that as well. If you have clients that have a lot of cysts and all that type of stuff, I bet you if they cut up one of them cysts, there's probably a parasite in there, right? And then you also want to understand what mechanisms that they have to hide themselves from you or combat the methods that you might have to eliminate them. So you want to know your enemy. That's essentially what I just said in short words. Know your enemy, the ins, the outs, what makes them tick. I can't stress that enough, especially when it comes to parasites, because there's a lot of information out there where people are just like, just get rid of parasites. Well, you do, you want to get rid of them, but at the end of the day, which parasite are we talking about? Where is it? How many of them is it? Which ones are they? If you want a more effective approach and a more targeted approach, then do a little research first and understand what type of parasite you're dealing with. If you have clients, let them go get a parasitic test. They take little samples of their stool and they test it that way. Best money ever spent. Some people may fuss about it, but it's best money ever spent because now I know exactly which joker is in here causing you some issues. Now we need to go, okay, this is his profile. Okay, now I know because I've researched and I've studied it. I know exactly which herb I can use for this particular one that's going to break him down to his socks. Okay, and not only that, it's babies and whatever's in his belly because you're not going to drop no seeds off on the way out, homie. Okay, so you got to know that. I can't stress that enough, okay? Because as the adult forms, if they are killed, they often form and deposit spores in eggs, or eggs, I should say, in your body's tissues. And these eggs may not hatch for till 2 or 3 weeks later. So any parasitic program, parasitic cleansing program, you want to make sure that it is in effect for a minimum of several life cycles of the organism. Okay, not just the killing off the adult. Okay, now the adult's gone. Well, now you need to worry about all other life cycle stages of the body. All right, so that is parasites. Study, study, study. Know your enemy. Number 3, the next topic you should study, pathogenic bacteria. Now, like I said before, when I say pathogen, I mean disease causing, or when I say disease, okay, I always put a hyphen in between dis and ease because it's an imbalance. That's how we look at it. What is causing the body to be out of balance? All right. So when I say pathogen, that's what I mean. This organism that is causing the body to be out of balance. Now, bacteria in and of itself is not bad, okay? But there are certain bacteria that can cause imbalances in the body or dis-ease, all right? And that's why I break those words up so we can better understand that. So let's look at pathogenic bacteria. Now, they are microorganisms, which are small little organisms. We're big organisms. They're micro, they're small. So small organisms that are capable of causing diseases in human beings. They can enter the body in various routes. So, through contaminated food, if you're eating that, or drinking contaminated water, inhaling airborne particles, if you have direct contact with somebody that's infected, or through any type of breaks in your skin. Okay. Again, I say study these bacteria, know them, understand how to create conditions in the body that are unfavorable so that they don't want to live here. Now, let's talk about the common diseases linked to pathogenic bacteria. Now, this can include any type of foodborne illness like salmonella, any type of E. coli infections, respiratory infections such as pneumonia, tuberculosis, skin infections, cellulitis, impetigo, meningitis, food poisoning, gonorrhea, typhoid, fever, hospital acquired infections is a big thing. A lot of these are tied to pathogenic bacteria. Okay. Now, pathogenic bacteria, they are single-celled organisms, meaning they only have one cell, and they're characterized by their cell wall structure, shape, and mobility. They may be spherical, which is, they call it cocci, right? Or rod-shaped, which is bacilli, or spiral-shaped, which is spirilla, and some possess flagella or pili for movement and attaching themselves to you or yourself, right? Why is that important? You need to know the characteristics. You need to know the profile of this particular bacteria that may be in your body and causing you problems. You got to know the ins and outs so that you know how to break them down. Okay. Now, herbal remedies, herbal remedies can be used to combat pathogenic bacteria through various mechanisms. Medicinal herbs employ a variety of mechanisms that can help kill and expel these type of bacteria from the body. So let's look at some of the properties that these medicinal herbs can have. One, antimicrobial compounds. So many herbs contain natural antimicrobial compounds such as essential oils, phenols, tannins, and alkaloids. Okay, these compounds disrupt the cell membranes of bacteria, inhibit their enzyme activity, or they can interfere with their DNA replication, ultimately leading to bacterial death. So, for example, let's look at garlic. Garlic, like I said before, with the parasites, it contains allicin, right? Oregano and thyme, which is thymol, right? They contain thymol. All are known for their potent antibacterial properties. All right. Next properties that herbs have, we call immune modulation. So, what these herbs can do is stimulate your body's immune response to these bacterial infections, which helps the body be able to recognize and destroy the pathogenic bacteria. So, you want to look at herbs like echinacea, astragalus, elderberry, right? They contain these compounds that activate the immune cells, right? Which are such as you want to look at your macrophages or your lymphocytes, which basically activates them, gives them that juice, so that they can go out and defend you and your body. Biofilm disruption. That is another one. So, bacterial biofilms are protective structures formed by the communities of bacteria, which makes them more resistant to antibiotics and immune responses. So, certain herbs like cranberry, cinnamon, and golden seal contain compounds that disrupt biofilm formation and weaken the bacterial colonies, making them more susceptible to antimicrobial agents and immune attack. So, one example of this can be like in your teeth. Okay, so there's bacteria in your mouth, and oftentimes this bad bacteria, as they call it, can create a biofilm, like a thin, sticky film over your teeth. And basically, it's protecting themselves, right, from the methods that you're using to get rid of them. It's like, how you gonna come and coat yourself over my teeth? And but these are the mechanisms that they do. So you want herbs that can damage the biofilm that prevents them from being able to hide. So you may have one specific herb that can break down the film. You may have another herb that will help boost up your immune system so that you can fight what's going on. And then you may have another herb that can weaken the bacterial colony so that they can't live and thrive anymore, right? So this information is very important in terms of formulation. Another one is pH modulation. So some herbs possess alkalinizing properties that can help create unfavorable environment for bacterial growth. By altering the pH balance of the body, these herbs stop the proliferation, meaning the fast spread and grow of this pathogenic bacteria, and promotes the growth of beneficial microflora. Okay, so there's some, if the pH is off, if it's too acidic, they can thrive. If it's too alkaline, certain bacteria cannot. So it's about creating the proper conditions so that, like I said before, they can't thrive there, make a house, set up, build a garage, a house, home, kids, and all that. It's like, no, you got to go. Don't be trying to get comfortable here because these conditions is about to be off. You can't stay here, you know. So you want to look at herbs like ginger and turmeric and marshmallow root. These can help restore balance in the gut microbe and help support overall health. Because you still want your good bacteria in there because they play an important role as well. If you want more information on that particular topic, you want to look at microbiology. Study microbiology. It doesn't have to be difficult either, but you want to understand microbiology so you can understand these little creatures that are causing people so much discomfort. All right, number 4, the next topic you need to study is viruses. Now, viruses, I want to tell y'all something. Viruses throws me for a loop every single time because I can wrap my mind around living organisms, right? I can wrap my mind around those things because they live, they have a way to move, they have a way to breathe, they have, what I mean. I can wrap my mind around that. Viruses is one of those things that I'm like, where y'all come from? Because this just don't make no sense, right? This don't make no sense. But let's get into viruses, and I'll get off my soapbox. Now, viruses are microscopic infectious agents that rely on host cells to replicate, okay, and cause dis-ease or imbalance. They can enter the human body through a variety of routes. Okay, you can inhale them through some sort of like respiratory droplets. You can ingest them through contaminated food or water. If you get, in contact with bodily fluids, you can get infected that way, or through insects. Okay. Now, common diseases caused by viruses include the flu, common cold, measles, HIV and AIDS, hepatitis, and of course, COVID-19. So, physically, viruses consist of genetic material, which is your DNA or your RNA, enclosed in a protein coat called a capsid. Sometimes it's surrounded by a lipid envelope. All right. So all of this allows it to kind of move freely throughout the body. Now, they lack cellular machinery and metabolic processes and depend on your host cell to reproduce. So once inside the body, the viruses hijack the host cells, replicate their genetic material, right, and produce viral proteins, leading to cellular damage and immune responses that manifest as symptoms of a disease. So these to me are like little computers. Okay. They come in there, they grab up your DNA, right? You know, then they on their little computers, then they put in their little viral proteins, right? Damage your cells in the meantime. It's like swipe or no swiping. Like, what are we doing? So viruses is like I said, mini computers. It's some tricky stuff to them. That's why I'm like, is this natural? Is this just organically created? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But they are non-living infectious agents that cannot be metabolized and they can't replicate on their own, right? So there's typically no medicinal herbs that can break down the virus in the same ways that they might target like bacteria or parasites, right? But this is how some herbs can help combat some of the viruses. Number one, inhibiting viral replication. So some herbs contain bioactive compounds that interfere with the replication process of viruses, preventing them from multiplying within the host cells, right? And of course, making the host sick. Now, the other thing that you can use is herbs that can kind of help boost the immune system of your clients. So, certain herbs can stimulate the immune system's response to viral infections, helping the body to recognize and eliminate viruses more effectively. Okay. But because these jokers are non living agents, right, and they can't metabolize or replicate on their own, and they're riding on our DNA, and, it's like I said, many computers in the body, it's just like, okay, this is interesting. Do some research. Do your research and really focus in on those herbs, okay, that interfere with the replication process of these viruses so that they don't keep reproducing themselves and hopping from cell to cell to cell to cell. There's a way to do it. Just do some research on it. And these are the things that you'll need to know, especially if you do have clients that have these different types of viruses and stuff like that that just go around. And the reason why I think the doctors say, oh, it's just going to run its course is because by then, I believe if your immune system is strong enough, it's fighting, it's doing what it needs to do. It to get rid of these things. They got their computer too. You got your computer, we got a master computer up here, buddy. So you ain't gonna last for too long. Now, if your immune system is weakened, and that's another podcast for another day, and you don't have enough fighters on your army, then that's what makes you susceptible to being overtaken and overrun by these little computers called viruses. That's all right. Number 5, prions. Now, what in the world are prions, and why in the heck should we study this? Okay, the reason why I feel like you need to study this is because um, this seems to be another hidden cause to a lot of, I believe, mental disorders. Okay, now what are prions? Prions are infectious agents composed of abnormally folding proteins that cause neurodegenerative diseases in humans and animals. All right, they can enter the human body through you eating contaminated food, exposure to any type of infected tissues. Okay, and common diseases associated with prions, they include CJD, Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, and then there's a variant to that. And then the other one is called bovine spongiform encephalopathy, okay, which is they call it mad cow disease. All right. Now, physically, prions lack genetic material and consist solely of misfolded proteins that can induce normal proteins to adapt the same abnormal structure. So they can influence especially in the brain, right? Leading to the formation of insoluble aggregates to the brain, which means that prions, so they come from if you are eating, like let's say the brain of the cow that's infected or the nerve tissues of cows, which I don't believe we should be eating any of that at all, because this is the reason why this stuff happens. All right. And so prions, and it's like, why are prions on this list? I put this on the list because prions are linked to certain forms of dementia. So that's what it means when it says neurodegenerative diseases. Prions are linked to different forms of these type of diseases, and oftentimes when it comes to things of the mind, which are heavily studied, people are not understanding where these are coming from. It's like, well, where dementia come from, and how can we combat that, and what's going on with that, all of these things. So as an herbalist, you want to study this, because if your client does eat meat, make sure that they're getting it from, recommend that they're getting it from an organic source. Make sure that if you're getting ground beef, that you're not eating part of a brain of a cow or nerve tissues of a cow, that could be exposed. And it's sad, but you just got to be careful. Sometimes I feel like out here we don't know in general what we're eating, and we're being exposed to these type of prions, and we may not even know it. The sad thing about it is, as of right now, they're saying that prion diseases are very rare, but they can be fatal. Okay, they are fatal. And right now, they don't have a cure for these type of conditions. So you may have a client that may have, dementia, memory loss, personality changes, difficulty with movement and coordination, right? Again, look at what they're eating, look at, what they're ingesting and putting in their bodies, that type of stuff. Okay. Now, do I believe there's no cure? I don't know. I don't know. I believe the Most High has given us a response and an answer for everything. We just have to research it. We have to seek Him. We have to, read, you know. And so, how can we get prions? How do we, you know, come into contact with them? So one is through ingestions, like I said. So these are by consuming contaminated food products, particularly those derived from animals infected with prion disease, such as cows and that type of stuff. So you don't, like I said before, do not eat the brains or the nerve tissues of cows. Period. Really, of any animal. Okay. Just just stay away from it. You just don't know unless you know the person. But even then, even if I knew the person who had a cow on a farm, I still would not eat the brains nor the nerve tissues from any animal. Another way you can catch it is transmission from infected individuals through body fluids or tissues. Okay. Although they say, human to human transition is very rare, but it can happen. You can also get exposure through medical procedures. So exposure to prions can occur through contaminated surgical instruments, tissue grafts, or medical treatments involving infected materials. And so you want to be careful, because once they enter the body, they can start causing an abnormal folding of normal cellular prion proteins, and this can lead to you know just all of them folding over, especially like I said in the brain. And then this is how you can start developing these diseases. Now, out there on the market, there's no known herbal remedies that can specifically target them or eliminate them from the body, but you want to manage your symptoms, and then of course education, 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 balanced diet, regular exercise, stress management, so that the body's defenses can be activated if necessary against these type of infections. But I put that on the list because I feel like it's something not talked about. It is a fascinating study, so study it out, study it all the way out. Okay, like I said, anytime you're doing any research, do sources of three. Get three different sources so that you can gain a well-rounded understanding of what you're studying. Okay, um, all of this stuff that I'm talking to you today, you can go to PubMed. They have several hundreds of thousands, okay, of research studies. People have researched these things. So read them. Okay, interesting studies. Now I'm going to give you a bonus. I said 5, but I'm going to give you a bonus topic that you need to study. This one probably, again, is on the list of obvious, but it's very important. It's extremely important. Okay, and that one is the bonus is phytochemistry. So phytochemistry is basically plant chemistry. It's the study of plant chemicals. And it's important to study because everything around us is a result of a chemical reaction. How we move, breathe, live, the rain, the sun, all this stuff. Everything that happens around us is a result of a chemical reaction. All right. And this even includes death. There's a chemical reaction involved in decomposition as well. Right. So to successfully address topics, all of the ones that I've stated before, you want to understand how to chemically break these things down. And there are chemicals in plants that have a direct action in disrupting the processes of these topics that I've spoken to you about, and therefore destroying their defenses. It's all chemistry, darling. So, several phytochemicals found in medicinal herbs have been shown to exhibit antiparasitic activity by disrupting the structure, metabolism, or reproductive processes of parasites. So, you want to know these, right? So, for example, the phytochemicals called saponins, these are found in plants like soapwort, licorice root. These can disrupt parasite cell membrane and metabolism, right? So you don't want them to absorb nutrients and all that kind of stuff because then that makes them stronger, right? Another phytochemical is berberine, and I talked about that earlier. And this is found in plants like golden seal, barberry, Oregon grape. Berberine has demonstrated a broad spectrum of antiparasitic effects against various parasites, protozoa, hemolymph, right? And it interferes with the integrity of this parasite cell membrane, and it disrupts its metabolic pathways and inhibits its ability to multiply. And of course, if it can't multiply, it'll eventually die. And that's what we want. We don't want it in our body lingering around. And so understanding phytochemicals is very important because if you know which chemical can have a reaction or action upon the body or the parasite or the bacteria or whatever it is that you are trying to address that is harming the body, if you know what chemical is that can speak to that particular thing specifically, then that's how you can have a more targeted approach in your formulations. All right. So, in closing, you have to know all these topics because they negatively impact yourself, your family, and your clients. All right. You have to educate your clients. This is so important. Now, I get it. There are some clients out there that are resistant. Once you talk to them about, especially certain topics that go against their own personal strong beliefs, okay, they will reject the information. And oftentimes they call that cognitive dissonance when what you say challenges a certain belief system and they automatically reject it. It's okay. Don't worry about that. Just give them the information. All right. Ask them if they have any questions. They can reach out and keep it moving. The scriptures say if you go into a town and they don't receive you, give them the information, shake the dust off your feet, and keep it moving. It's the same thing in our field. Give people the information. A lot of times they just need time to digest it. They need time to go research it on their own. They need time to kind of break down those walls that they have, and they can do that. You know what I mean? They can do that. And there are people out there that will do that. I know there are some people, it's unfortunate, they have to wait for that diagnosis. Okay? They have to wait until they hear you've got 6 months to live, or I've got to take your liver, or your kidneys are failing. Some people, they have to get slapped in the face in order to wake up, right? And even that sometimes it's like it's nerve-wracking, especially if it's your family or people you love and care about. It's rough. As an herbalist, it's rough, but it's the reality. And so give them the information, let them chew on it, all right? And then maybe they'll come back to you. If not, maybe they'll go to another herbalist, and that's okay too, as long as they get the information. All right. But really zero in and focus on those that are hungry for knowledge. They want to understand what the root cause of the issue is that they've been dealing with, and they want to do something about it. They're ready to do something about it. They have the resources, they have the mentality. These are the ones that you want to give your all to. because they want to know. And then once they get better and they are doing well, they'll go and tell other people and it'll spread like wildfire. But don't spend all your energy on the ones who are just argumentative or, they don't want to do nothing anyway. They just talking, they lazy. Don't waste your time. I know those people sometimes seem like they're the loudest in the room, but don't pay attention to that because you'll miss the opportunity to talk to the person that really, really needs you. All right. And if you have someone that is argumentative, um, just give them the pamphlet. Or, hey, I'll give you some information and you just go do your own research and keep it moving. We don't have time to argue in our field. We really don't. There are hundreds of billions of trillions of people in the world that need the information that we have that we don't have time to argue. Like I said, trust. Sometimes people need to have a diagnosis or they need to have their foot on the table with a knife next to it in order for them to be like, oh, you know what? That herbalist one time said this about diabetes. I need to stop eating those ho-hos and get my insulin in order and exercise and lose weight. Da, 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 da. It's okay. The point is they eventually will get it. But then you have to understand and accept the fact as herbalists, sometimes they may never get it. And you have to understand that as well. All right? So, if you have liked what you heard this evening, please follow me on all social media sites. Continue to stay tuned for more informative podcasts. This is episode 30. I'm so excited, y'all. So excited. Follow me on all social media sites at The Demystified Herbalist. You can catch this podcast and future podcasts, not only on Spotify, but also on YouTube, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 p.m. I think I'm Central Standard Time. Central Standard Time. All right. And until next time, family, thanks for listening. I'm out.